Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
Joe, we're going to talk about Star Trek Beyond.
So that makes sense. And,
You're the perfect person to do it.
Thank you. I guess it makes sense. I would say it's interesting you said that Star Trek meets Fast and Furious because I think unlike the previous Star Trek movies that have come out in the reboot, this one wasn't quite as fast-paced. So
Interesting.
It is interesting. But getting into it, Star Trek Beyond is obviously the most recent Star Trek movie in the Abrams verse, and this one is basically directed by Justin Lin of Fast and Furious, and the screenplay was written by Simon Pegg, obviously a big Star Trek fan, knows it in and out. Got all the cast coming back: Chris Pine, Zachary Quino, everybody, and you've got a new villain played by Idris Elba playing Krull, who is an interesting character, I guess. And basically, the USS Enterprise is called out because there's a distress signal and they've got to help some alien in need.
Full-on classic.
Standard situation.
This never goes wrong.
Go into basically this uncharted area and they end up attacked, stranded on this alien planet, and they have to escape and find out how they can stop the bad guys' plan. I have to say that I've kind of had very mixed feelings about the Abrams movies, as you guys know, but I'm happy to report that I think that this movie feels a little more like classic Star Trek to me. And I'm not entirely sure if I can narrow down exactly what it is, but I do think that it's at least attempting to be a little bit smarter than the previous two films.
Okay.
A little less heavy on the action, a little more on the themes and just the good character stuff, which I do enjoy, and it doesn't feel too out of place because it does go off of what happened in the previous films, especially for Kirk and Spock.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the cast is great, doing well with their lines. They've got great chemistry, obviously. There's some good little callbacks and jokes as usual. And I actually thought the story was a nice change of place and pace.
Both, really.
Really.
Applicable.
Because, instead of, the space battles, we actually have the crew on the planet doing some stuff, some adventuring. You got a new character introduced.
Mm-hmm.
You've got
I loved.
Who basically, I'm going to just refer to who has Space Elf.
Okay.
Equally applicable, yes.
Jail, I believe her name was. But yeah, I really liked that character a lot. I was worried she was just going to be like a plot device or over-sexualized, but she was a good alien character that interacted, and I hope she comes back. So she was welcome for me there. The biggest issue I guess I had was that I love Idris Elba, and I did like the fact that, I think he does a pretty good job with what he's given. The makeup was fantastic.
Yeah, the makeup was great.
Oh, man.
And the visuals are great. Even more practical effects, which I did appreciate, of course, blended with the CGI, so a good mix there. But I think they tried to create a more layered, thought-provoking villain compared to the previous ones, much more akin to standard Trek. And they touch on some really cool ideas, but much like his planet itself, it's extremely underdeveloped. So he kind of comes off being just a little bit better than generic. It's only because Idris Elba is giving a very cold, presence even beneath all that makeup.
Yeah.
That kind of elevates the character a little bit. He's a good villain, but I don't know if he's a great villain by any stretch. But at least they were trying.
Mm-hmm.
I think Justin Lin's got a great eye for direction, and I think he honestly gets Star Trek a little more than Abrams does. I think it's pretty apparent.
Yeah,
but I
agree.
I also think, though, that because it's a little more like standard Trek, I wonder how other people might find it appealing or not. So I'm curious to see what you guys thought, because I was surprised with it. I liked it more in some ways than the other ones, but I did think it might have been lacking a little bit in pacing issues. But overall, I was pretty happy overall.
This is a movie I guess would be the closest to compare to The Amazing Spider-Man in terms of my overall reaction. It starts off really, really messy with just so much going on, and yet nothing is happening. Then we get to Act 2, where it starts feeling like Star Trek out of nowhere, and it's actually a lot of fun. And then we get to the third act, where they're trying to justify why the first part of the movie was so messy, and it's only working about 50% of the time. Now, in terms of directors, I got to give Justin Lin credit. He has a really, really solid eye for, I would argue, the architecture of the ship. It's really interesting seeing how he sets up, okay, here's this person there, how they're interacting when the ship is attacked, how they're responding. You can clearly tell the camaraderie that the crew has together. And it really shaws how far we've come, even though it seems like the events of Into Darkness are more or less completely ignored, for better or for worse. I was sadly hoping for Super Trouble to show up at some point, but we can't have nice things.
You can dream, Justin.
I can dream. I would say really when it starts taking off is when they're on when they're on the ground in that in their new location, dealing with the hardships. Honestly, if there was a Bones and Spock spin-off, I would be totally in favor of it.
Well, Spock and Bones have always had the best quips with each other.
Like, seriously, the best moments in this movie are with them together. It's quite possibly the most unlikely pairing, and yet it works so well.
Yeah, I love it.
No, that always works, though. That's standard Trek. They always go to each other like that.
Carl Urban, though.
Gotta
Still
love it.
my favorite
Fantastic.
part, as usual, great
Yeah.
Bones, great
Yeah.
DeForest Kelly impressions, spot on.
Yeah, it really is.
Absolutely.
So very mixed for you, Justin, seems like.
Yeah, I mean, like, the visual component I think is really good for once we don't have lens flares. It's probably... I'm actually okay with Abrams as a director. It's just...
Too
the
many
lens
flares.
flares gotta go, man. I'm sorry. It's just...
You kind of made me realize something. This is more of a Star Trek nerd gripe, but it is kind of big considering this is the third movie now in the reboots. The new Enterprise is terrible. Okay, their shields are worthless. This thing got more destroyed than, like, you thought it was bad in the previous movies. Like, at this point, can't you just show that the Enterprise is the best ship? It takes a lot of damage, and I feel like the suspense, if
Well,
it
you
goes...
gotta get him in there somehow.
Yeah.
I know, but if you do it the next time, I mean, come on. Let's avoid blowing up the ship again,
Yeah.
They've only gone through, like,
Standard.
8 models, whatever.
I know, right?
But no, I left this one feeling satisfied, but I feel like it could have been great.
Well, I loved it. Here's the thing. The best thing I think we can all agree about the first 2 Trek reboots was the amazing casting and the chemistry of all of them together.
Oh, yeah.
Here, I think that grows even stronger. And you add the element of Beyond being more or less a 2-part extended episode, which I think works incredibly well. It is as enjoyable as it is marvelously crafted. Peg wrote a great script. It gives the series the strongest storyline yet, I think, because it doesn't rely on previous movie elements like Khan, like Into Darkness. And like the first movie, it doesn't need to introduce everyone and give them a purpose. I mean, we waste about 20 or 30 minutes in that first movie, and literally 90% of the people going to see this movie already know. So I don't know if we needed to spend all that time. It was fine. I love the first Abrams movie. I do. Mm-hmm. But for me, this is the best one of the series.
Really?
I think Lynn gives it this great look. You both mentioned that. What I think Lynn does best is giving us the action sequences that he's obviously known for, while also completely attaching us more to the characters that we already love. I think that's why the Fast and Furious franchise is so strong, because it's got a great action component, but you genuinely care about all of the characters, and I think we have that here too, including, Joe, as you mentioned, the new woman, who I hope we see in future installments as well. I thought she was great. My one minor complaint is Elba, and not because of Elba.
No.
He does a great job, like you said. I agree, the makeup is fantastic. But, his screen time is so minimized that he barely even registers until that final part, the final showdown. And he's an okay villain. He's not the best I've seen.
His motivations are a little
Splotchy.
odd.
They are, but look, we're going through all these old Trek episodes. When you look at a lot of these old Trek episodes, is it better or worse than any of them?
Charlie X?
Well, it's certainly better than Charlie X.
Well, yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like, a standard Trek villain doesn't necessarily have the best, motivation or plot basis.
Puny human, I will destroy you.
And that's, what I like the most about this is that I think because Peg is a true fan, you've got the feel of Trek that everybody that likes Trek is going to enjoy. And because of the first 2 movies kind of setting up the cast and everything, people that were not even familiar with Trek 8 years ago, I think, will also really appreciate it if they've even seen one of the 2 other movies. I mean, they don't set anything up, so it's like, if this is the first thing ever you've seen of Trek, okay, maybe not. Kind of like Days of Future Past, or, some of the X-Men movies can agree is a great movie.
You can't, not for the uninitiated.
But don't ever see it if it's your first X-Men experience. I feel kind of the same way here. I mean, you might enjoy some of the sequences, but I don't think it'll really mean anything to you. Whereas I think for the Trek lover or the person who appreciates the Abrams movies, and that's it, I think both camps will enjoy this.
I think they'll both be satisfied.
There's something to get out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So, want to hear my thoughts?
Yeah, I can't wait.
I don't think it's perfect, but I would agree it's probably my favorite of the new ones. I'll leave it with an A-.
Okay, well, for me, this is the film of the summer. I mean, this is what blockbusters are all about. It's an A for me.
Oh.
Summer of Disappointment continues. B-.
Oh.
All right.
But hey, better than Amazing Spider-Man. That was a C+, if I remember correctly.
And better than Ghostbusters.
Better
and
than
better than
Ghostbusters.
a lot of the reboots we've gotten thus far. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see